practical ways to cope with grief, life after a loved one's passing. Dear friend, I lost my father, but you might have lost a mother, wife, husband, daughter, son, friend, grandparents, or any close relation to you. Or you might have even lost an entire family or several family members at once. It does not matter whether you lost them when you were younger or older in life, because the grief and the magnitude of pain only you know and only you understand. Your loved one might have been the best in your own eyes and even those around you, and left you with a sea of beautiful memories and a love that nothing can fill. Oh, your loved one might have done some bad things that you and I cannot justify, whose death has brought in dark, unexplainable experiences that drag you with shame every now and then. My dear, you are not alone, and we shall walk through this tunnel together. It may be a couple of days, weeks, months, years, or decades since they are passing on, and many of you, like me, struggle to find balance in life again. Losing a loved one is a major shift in life. The circumstances may be different, but one thing that unites us all is grief. What is important is how we learn to walk through, to cope, to heal, and finally live again, or coexist with grief in a way that allows us to thrive. Welcome to Through the Tunnel of Grief. I am Theodora. In this space, we explore ways to nurture ourselves and loved ones through the many shapes and seasons of grief, from the raw ache of losing a loved one to the quiet heartbreak of divorce or separation. This podcast is here to inspire, inform, encourage, and remind you that you're not alone. Today, I share 10 practical ways to cope with grief, especially after losing a loved one. These are methods that help me walk through grief after the passing of my dad. Some may resonate with you, others may spark new ideas for your healing journey. Remember, you are not alone, and you don't have to walk this tunnel alone. Let's take these steps together. When my father passed, my world shifted. Some days were quiet and reflective. Others were filled with a storm of emotions, sadness, anger, regret, and confusion. Grief came in seasons, sometimes overwhelming, sometimes subtle. Even if your memories of your loved one are complicated, or if you feel guilt or shame, grief is valid. What unites us all is this experience of loss and the journey to find balance, healing, and eventually peace. There are 10 ways to cope with grief. The first one, build an informal support system. Support can be everything. Friends, relatives, or grief communities can help you heal. My maternal grandparents, mother, and even strangers each offered support at different times. Some practical tips. Accept help even if it isn't exactly what you hoped for. Seek support if none is offered naturally. Be mindful of people who may unintentionally bring harm instead of healing. The second way, express yourself creatively. Writing, journaling, doodling, singing, dancing, or poetry can help you release feelings safely. Writing was one of the first things that came to me at the age of 8. One day, I came across my mother's diary and I read how she had written out her plans and experiences among other things. and that triggered in me the desire to start writing. And just like my mother, I started writing. I requested her to buy me a book and a pen, which she did, and that marked the start of my writing journey. I wrote letters to my dad and found a space to express my emotions when I couldn't yet speak aloud. Writing gives you a space, a safe space to pour out your heart without being judged. Writing helps you open up and express yourself in writing if you're not yet ready to talk about what you're going through, or if you're not in a safe space to share. Drawing, painting, or doodling. I do not know how to paint or draw, but doodling is all I can do. Doodling greatly helped me in my grief journey. Doodling was something I did when I felt anxious. It just had a way of refocusing my emotions and thoughts on the picture. It had an effect that I can only describe as it made my mind feel blank, peaceful. If you are gifted with painting or drawing, you can paint or draw. If you are like me, try doodling. These activities help you express your emotions, which improves your emotional well-being. Here are some practical tips for creative expression. Try journaling or a creative activity for 10 to 15 minutes a day. Use creative expression as a safe outlet for your emotions. Write one memory or feeling about your loved one today. Singing, dancing, or poetry. Creative expression relieves tension, channels emotions, and reconnects you to joy. Even small acts of singing, dancing, or reading poetry can be healing. Singing and poetry also help me express myself, to say the things I wanted to say in the way I wanted to say them. Sometimes it never made sense to those who heard it, but to me it did. I sang in the school choir when I was little, and as an adult, I sang in the church choir. Singing relaxed me and took my mind off anything. If you can sing, dance, or do poetry, these greatly relax you, take off stress, and help keep your mind off the troubles of grief. The third way to cope with grief: engage with nature. Gardening gave me peace. It took me a while to realize that gardening was something I deeply loved and had a positive effect on me. Whenever I was overwhelmed, I went gardening, and somehow it just made me feel better. Gardening was something my maternal grandparents introduced to me, and I am so thankful. Gardening is now a part of who I am. It doesn't matter where I am, I garden. Pets also greatly help. In my lifetime, I have had several pets: a cat, a dog, doves, and fish. It's hard to explain, but having the different pets in my life over time helped me through grief and other difficult moments in my life. The pets gave me a new sense of responsibility and purpose. Having the pets encouraged me to eat when I didn't feel like it, to get out of bed when I had slept for hours. When I was sad, they knew it. My cat Primrose always lay at my feet when she noticed I was sad. She would sometimes come and lie beside me. My fish, whenever I talked about my troubles, I noticed it would stop swimming and come towards me. And it stayed there for as long as I was there, which made me know it listened to me. How great it is to have a listening ear when you are at crossroads or in your darkest hour. My fish and all other pets gave me a listening ear and never judged me, but offered me friendship comfort, and a safe space to pour out my heart. Pets provided companionship and purpose. Even small interactions with nature or animals can help ground your emotions and remind you of life cycles. Some practical tips. Spend a few minutes outdoors daily. Nurture a plant or pet. Consider getting a pet that you feel comfortable or matches your personality. Notice how nature reflects growth and renewal in your life. The fourth way to cope with grief. Take a spiritual or reflective journey. Taking a spiritual journey was a life-defining journey for me. I was in a place of loneliness. I felt empty, lost, depressed, and I was physically sick with something that couldn't be diagnosed medically. I was in a dark place, mentally, physically, emotionally, and in all ways. I embarked on a spiritual journey to understand myself and also to understand my faith. Along the way, I found my identity that grief had robbed of me. I got healing from the bodily pains I had, and I found a peace I had never found before. Before the spiritual awakening journey, I had sleeping problems, resentment, anger issues, and many other problems. Taking the spiritual journey offered me meaning to life. It gave me answers, comfort, and healing that words just can't describe. My spiritual journey helped me find my identity, peace, and meaning. Explore your own beliefs through prayer, meditation, reflection, or reading. Some practical tips. Dedicate a few minutes each day to do spiritual reflection. Let your journey be personal. This week, I want you to reflect on what spiritual or reflective practices could you start doing. The fifth way to cope with grief. Celebrate memories of your deceased loved one. Honoring your loved one keeps them alive in your heart. It makes them forever part of the family. Someone only dies when you forget them. It can be as simple as making them part of your day-to-day life. For instance, I still brush my teeth just like how my dad did it. Every morning I think about him as I brush my teeth, and I can't help but smile, and some days a tear runs down my cheek because of how much I miss him. You can decide to talk about your loved one to the children in the family or celebrate their birthday or death anniversary. These little actions have such a huge impact on our lives and maintain a connection. They bring us so much joy and healing. Small routines and joyful actions, like remembering your loved one in daily habits, help integrate their memory into life without being consumed by grief. Some practical tips. Create daily routines that honor your loved one. Share stories with family or children about your loved one. Include loved ones in these celebrations to strengthen bonds. The sixth way to cope with grief. Visit the gravesite or plant some flowers around the gravesite. Visiting gravesites or caring for loved ones provides peace, healing, and connection. Even small gestures like leaving flowers or tending to the gravesite can bring comfort. It may not make sense to those around you, but to you, as the one grieving, you will see the benefits. Healing or coping with grief is not a straightforward thing. Some things like visiting the gravesite of a loved one, taking them flowers, may not make sense to those around you, but it makes sense when you do. I was not able to visit my dad's gravesite because of certain complications, but when my maternal grandparents passed on, I was able to take care of their gravesite. and there is just an unspoken peace, calm, healing, and connection that came with. The practical tip: do whatever feels right for you without judgment or expectation. The seventh way to cope with grief: open communication with family or loved ones. Grief can silence families. Open communication strengthens relationships. Share fears, memories, and feelings. Lean on each other for support. After the death of a loved one in a family, there can be certain tensions that may arise. A once loving family just goes silent and grows apart because everyone is dealing with grief in their own way. But I do encourage you, if you have a family, share your feelings, experiences, and fears. Let grief bring your family together and not tear it apart. Nourish the relationships you still have, like your children, siblings, or spouse. Lean on each other for support. With the passing of my father, our family grew further apart because there was no open and clear communication, but only assumptions reigned. Therefore, create an avenue for you as a family to talk and also address certain issues, and not feel like issues will sort themselves out. Nothing will sort itself out. Something else will come up, worse than what needed to be dealt with. Talk to each other. If you go silent on each other, resentment and bitterness will take root. This week, I invite you to schedule a weekly check-in with family or a trusted friend. The eighth way to cope with grief: seek counseling, therapy, or professional help for grief. Therapy or counseling provides safe guidance. Professionals can help you navigate complicated emotions and coping strategies. I implore you to please seek professional help. Practical tips: find a therapist that you feel safe with. Seek help early to prevent isolation or prolonged suffering. The ninth way to cope with grief: reading and learning. Books, poetry, and stories can inspire hope and provide guidance. They open windows to new perspectives and remind you that life continues to hold beauty. I started reading while I was very young, and at about the age of 10, I was a member of the public library in my hometown in Tororo, Eastern Uganda. Reading fairy tales, African folk tales, poetry, among others, proved to me that there is a beautiful world outside. I just needed it. I just needed to find it. This gave me zeal as a young child to hope for a better future despite my current situation. This hope grew in me, which propelled me to always seek to make my life better and know that I will have a beautiful life. The books I read as a child motivated and inspired me the most. Also, during my spiritual awakening journey, I read a lot of books which built my faith and gave me answers that I sought. Reading provides inspiration, enlightenment, guidance, and hope in grief. The 10th way to cope with grief: nurture yourself daily. Self-care is important. Sleep, eat well, exercise, spiritual practices, creative outlets, and reflection strengthen resilience. Remember, thriving doesn't mean forgetting. It means living fully while honoring your grief. Grief is a journey, not a destination. These 10 practices, from seeking support and expressing yourself creatively to honoring memories and nurturing your soul can guide you toward healing. Thank you for listening to Through the Tunnel of Grief. Share this episode with someone who might need encouragement today. Remember, my dear friend, you are not alone, and together we can walk through this tunnel toward hope, peace, healing, and connection. I remain your host, Theodora.